And the stream should be up at this point. I will adjust my camera one more time for the second to last time, probably.
Probably.
And I think we're ready to start whenever you're ready.
All right. Let me just mute my phone. Hey, I got a notification that we are live.
Nice.
Imagine that. That it's working. Well, I mean, other than, actually having the stream up,
Yep. All right, I'm going to start the recording. 3, 2, 1.
Yep, I got my backup going just in case for the audio. All right, if you want to switch us over.
Mm-hmm.
I'll just wait on it to transition.
You're good to go. It's transitioned, so...
There we go. What's up, nerds, and welcome back to Heroes Never Die, your one-stop spot for all things competitive Overwatch and Overwatch 2. If you're listening tonight here live on YouTube for our live show, welcome, and of course, we want to thank all of our audio listeners out there, whether, when you're iTunes, Stitcher, Spotify, we're on all the major podcatchers. But anyways, I, of course, am your host, Simply Drunk, and tonight we will have a full crew as soon as Ramses gets off of work. But, it's a pretty big week. Season 2 is upon us. We have a new hero. We have balance updates. We have some pretty exciting stuff happening on the esports front, which is kind of a change of pace with all of the doom and gloom that we've had with the China situation happening because of the NetEase Activision Blizzard deal with licensing. But we'll get into that here in just a little bit. Of course, joining me tonight, as always, to break everything down with me is my co-host, Spyder. Spyder, how are you doing tonight?
I'm doing excellent. How are you doing?
It's, I'm doing better today. It's been a busy week. Just patiently waiting for next week to get here for a multitude of reasons, which, we'll get into. But, enjoying Dragonflight still.
Mm-hmm.
We've got some teases for Diablo 4, potential release date on that front as well. So, everything's pretty good right now.
Yeah, it's been a pretty cool week. I appreciated this week as like downtime in World of Warcraft. Not that it's like super downtime, but because we played so much last week, we're kind of ahead of the curve. So we could take it a little easier this week. Do a couple of mythics. Do some world stuff. But it's not like the rat race is going to be for next week. So I did have a lot of time to play Overwatch 2. I got to play Ramatra. I have some thoughts on him. Not very good. But I also got to play a lot of Bastion because you know what Ramatra's #1 weakness is? A fuck ton of bullets. Like that is just... He seems really weak to that. I don't know why, even when he's blocking. And the other side of that is we've seen a lot of Doomfist. Like I feel like we're entering a pretty decent Doomfist meta. At least that's what it seems like for now, just because everybody's trying him. Hopefully it doesn't shake out that way, because as a support player, that really sucks, because Doomfist is like the bane of all supports. But
yeah, so support has enough issues as it is. We don't need Doomfist added to the equation. But I digress. We'll get into that later, because like when you look at the balance patch, specifically on the support front, everyone has really just been like up in arms, especially more so with like the Mercy changes in particular, just because like they're so laughable. But we'll get into that.
Yeah, I mean, that one extra second on Sleep Dart I have now has really made the world of difference for Ana. Like, I am playing her so much now. I think I selected her once to change skins, and that was it. It's rough as a support player, but as a DPS player, I've been having a lot of fun playing Bastion, because his changes to his ultimate actually make it pretty deadly, and people haven't quite figured it out yet. They're like, Bastion's ultimate's coming down. I'll move out of it. Oh, I'm dead. What? Like, it's so fast now. But it's been a good week. I got a lot of the quests done. I did buy the battle pass, so like I said, I got to play Ramatra. He needs some work. He doesn't fit in anywhere. They're like, he's a tempo tank. He's a tempo tank. I'm like, you're just making up words at this point. Like, you can't say he's a tempo tank when he provides no tempo other than, oh, I'm close to them. Here, let me punch them a little bit. Okay, that's gone. Let me back up. Like, the tempo is basically get lucky or, wait. So I don't know. And, it could be a skill issue. Like, it could just be we don't know how to use him, but he doesn't seem very good right now. The other problem I've noticed is, I don't know if you got a chance to play him, but if you play Ramatra versus Ramatra, and you both hit your ultimate, like, you guys just stand there forever because your supports are just healing you. So literally what I have to do is I have to walk past the other Ramatra to break the stalemate, because there was one point, and I almost put it up on like our YouTube shorts. I'll have to go back and see if I have the clip still, but it's me and another Ramatra just alting each other for literally like 40 seconds straight, like just standing there as our supports are healing us and stuff. I don't know, like I will probably do like a video on Ramatra once I'm done with this monetization video, which I talked about last show. I'm not going to talk about it this show, other than the fact that it should be out tomorrow, barring any like internet outages, anything like that. I'm putting the finishing touches on it, probably during the podcast. So no, but after the podcast, it's ready to go. It's, everything's done. So Ramatra is next. I do want to get a little more playtime in with him. Yesterday it was like 10 minutes to play tank, so I didn't get to play him a whole lot yesterday, or the day before, and then yesterday it was like a long wait. I did get to play him a lot this morning, and that's primarily what I'm basing my feedback on. But I do want to wait until people kind of spread out a little bit. But other than that, quiet week for news, and I'll take it, because after the last couple of weeks, the dumping of Overwatch League players, seeing like 3 or 4 get dropped was nice. Just because it's a lot easier to digest. So
yeah, it's like, hey guys, we just dropped 70% of the league, so but just net numbers, it's just how it works. We're gonna have less players overall. But I'm glad you brought up the YouTube shorts. You and I have been trying to branch out a little bit more with more bite-sized content, so to speak. So you've been doing some YouTube shorts. I've been doing some TikToks for the show as well. So that's at H&D Overwatch if you're on TikTok. Trying to see like, what sort of traction we can get. It always helps just to, build up different, social platforms. So we're going to be, focusing a little bit on both of those. So, trying to upload a couple each day on that front.
Yep.
But of course, if you guys are looking to keep in contact with everything going on here for Heroes Never Die, of course, you can follow us over on Twitter at H&D Overwatch. And of course, you can talk to us over on our community Discord at discord.me/OWLN show. Now, that being said, of course, we do have a little bit of news, at least on the Overwatch League front. Pretty light, though, compared to what it has been, because it has been like one swift blow with Roster Apocalypse. It's just like one full swoop. The Grim Reapers coming in, going through a couple of doors. I mean, it's basically been every door at this point, because it's like just about every single team in the Overwatch League has been, I'm not going to say like completely decimated, but for the most part, that is going to ring true. And most recently, we have some updates from the Hanzhou Spark as well as the Houston Outlaws. So on the Hanzhou Spark front, they have released both Alpha E and Irony. And, we've already heard some rumblings in regards to a potential direction that we could see from the Spark with the roster. I know at one point, this was a couple of weeks ago, it was rumored that they're looking at picking up RUI, or Ray, formerly of the Chengdu Hunters, for that head coach position, which could signal a full Chinese roster. But again, we've talked these past couple of weeks about that licensing deal. There's just so much uncertainty over in APAC. So like, despite like when those rumors were circulating, like it's really hard to know, how much truth there is to that right now, knowing that, so many things are still in flux right now. We don't have a clear picture of what's going on over in the East.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, and it could have changed in those past couple of weeks just because of all the news and how fast things are changing. Alpha E getting dropped was a little strange to me just because he did so well. Now, I guess they still have Leave, right? Or did they drop Leave as well? I can't remember at this point. But Irony, I guess the easy, like the low hanging fruit is Irony. Irony, wasn't a standout. Didn't get much playtime. Just wasn't. I don't know. Like that was an easy drop to me. Like the fact that Irony lasted as long as he did, just kind of speaks to me that they weren't really sure of what they were doing. So. But Alpha E surprised me because he was kind of like the standout on the team for me last year. Like I felt like they were going to start to build around him, but like you said, we don't know with this full Chinese roster or if there's like problems getting just funding because they don't know what's going on now. We don't know, and this whole region is just it's just fucked right now. Like I think all the Chinese teams dropping everybody and probably waiting to the last minute is what we're going to see. Outside of maybe Shanghai, like Shanghai may get like a pass just because they are like, well, we're like the Chinese darlings. We can probably conjure up some money, but we'll have to see down the line.
Absolutely. So just taking a look at the remnants of the Spark roster at this point, we are left with Gushwei as your tank, Shine Pineapple at DPS, and they still have Super Rich in regards to the support. So still pretty bare bones at this point, but it's not as demolished as some of the other rosters that we have seen during this rebuild phase. But we'll keep an eye on how things are developing on that front. Now, outside of that, over on the West, we have the Houston Outlaws releasing Merit today, and looking at the tweet, it really implied that he's already found a new home, and it's believed to be part of a trade with another team. Basically, Outlaws went out and said, hope you enjoyed the beautiful weather at your new home. So of course, people look at that, and everyone is just assuming that it is the San Francisco Shock, maybe the LA Gladiators, but a lot of people are looking at the Shock in particular as a potential trade landing spot for Merit. But my thing is this: at the end of the day, Merritt was a good player, but I wouldn't say he was like a top 3 hit scan in the Overwatch League. I think you could potentially argue that he's like 4th or 5th in the league currently with where he is.
Maybe.
At.
Yeah.
But I don't know. I think there's a lot of biasness towards hit scan players, just in particular with the Overwatch League, where you kind of got like those rose tinted goggles because of what we've seen like Proper doing, so to speak.
Yeah, and that to me kind of leads me to think that he would go to Gladiators rather than San Francisco, just because San Francisco has Proper already, and Gladiators have traditionally struggled finding someone to fill that overall hit scan role since the whole ons happy random moving people around kind of thing happened. But with the loss of a majority of their roster, who knows at this point. And I do want to correct earlier before I get lost. I meant Shy, not Leave. You said Chengdu and I was thinking Leave, but I meant Shy. And Shy did well, don't get me wrong. But Alpha E was the standout, like he was the unexpected thing. So moving past that, Merit getting dropped did surprise me because it kind of, the rumor was that Houston was moving to a Korean roster. That again may or may not be true. We don't know at this point. So Merit being dropped, because Merit was kind of like their, as much as Dante was like their standout player, we all knew Dante was a great player. We just had questions about his tanking ability. But Merit was kind of like the question mark, like, hey, how good is this guy? And he started out as Merit 76, and then he just fell into that Sojourn role, and he just got better and better over time until he was, a force to be reckoned with. And by the end of the season, I would put him in the top 3 as a Sojourn player, absolutely, just because his consistency. I would probably put him at number 3 with like obviously Proper, and then Shy, and then Merritt, and then probably Edison. You can argue third place at that point. It just depends when you were looking, but I think Merritt deserves to be in the conversation for top 3. Bias is gonna take effect at that point, because the top 2 I think were so like clear cut. But I was surprised that they dropped him, just because, like I said, he rallied at least that one fan that you had to deal with at the grand finals around him. So I was surprised, but not at the same time, just because we've seen so many people get dropped, like so many high profile players get dropped. So it's sad, but it sounds like he has found another team, which is excellent. He deserves another shot at a championship.
Absolutely. We also have an update in regards to the Washington Justice and their staff. They've gone out and signed a general manager and head coach. So we have someone wearing 2 hats in this case. So taking over the role there is the former Paris Eternal coach. This is from the 2020-2021 Eternal. Get Amazed, who has been busy with Contenders Europe. And I know Get Amazed had an interview with Fefe, who's one of the French content creators out there after this announcement was made today. He did note that, the rumor of Team Peps, who, he's currently coaching at Contenders, was in talks to be the Justice's new roster, but that has since been canceled. He says the type of roster that they're looking at is currently up in the air, and it's not entirely in his hands. So I don't know, Spyder. We've seen teams taking this approach, or these orgs taking this approach, where it's like, okay, you are either going to be handcuffed, or you're going to have free reign. And we've kind of seen one side work a little bit better than others. Now, here's the thing with Get Amazed. This is someone who, in the past, has been known for cultivating talent, someone who has worked with not necessarily like the superstars in regards to tier 2. You're looking with people that have that potential, but he's been known for working with, maybe not someone that's in like your top 3 or your top 5. He's looking for those diamonds in the rough to see like what they can basically come up with. And that's great and all, but to so many extents in the Overwatch League, when we see teams building around that type of structure, a lot of times it's been more to, say, sell off talent, like the Boston Uprising. They've definitely, by far, been the best team at doing that. I mean, they are like, the professional esports organization of the Overwatch League, or so the meme says. But like, when I think of a team that has done it so well, I think of Boston. But I think if you're just looking at short-term success at the Overwatch League level, that's not the direction to really be taken. So that basically tells me Justice aren't going to be one of the teams who are going to be shelling out the money. We're going to be looking at more of the, $50K, the league minimum, and seeing what they can come up with. And then hopefully it's just not, what we saw out of like, a team like Paris or the Valiant or one of these teams who's only stringing together a couple of wins throughout the course of the season.
Yeah, I can tell you from my time that I got to talk to Mark, the owner of the Justice, he is a venture capitalist to a T, like textbook. And you can tell, like, and this is obviously way back in like 2019, 2020 when I did it. So a lot of stuff has changed since then, but you can tell like last season was their big push. Like that was the season they dumped a whole bunch of money, got like the superstar players, they got Decay, they got Happy, they picked up Mag, they dumped a whole bunch of money. Like that was their big push. And there was a quote that he said that sticks in my head when we got to interview him and talk to him. And he's like, he literally said at one point, something along the lines of, I wish our success would be better for the amount of investment that we've put into the team. And that was in 2019. And that was almost, I don't want to say it's verbatim, but that was very close to what he said. Like, he was basically very candid about he was not happy with the status, the way the team was going back then. And it hasn't gotten any better. And you can tell that they've spent a bunch more money by now. So the fact that they would switch gears now to a farm team when a lot of other teams are doing it doesn't surprise me in the least. Like, it's not something that as we talk about it, I'm like, oh no, that's very weird. Like, they definitely want to be a championship team. No, at this point I can almost guarantee you that he is looking for that ROI, and he just wants to farm out players at this point. I hope they do well, not just because they're my local team, and I will hopefully go see them if they put it in an arena again this season. I thought about going to like the homestand things, but they had a lot of like really strict rules and stuff like that. And not that I'm against any of this, it's just I just didn't have time to prepare. Like, you needed you needed like a COVID shot like 2 weeks prior, and you needed a lot of stuff. And I was like, okay, well, I'm up to date on all my vaccinations, but I don't want to go through all this just to go sit in a small room and watch Overwatch. Like, I can fucking do that here with my kids and have better company, and not pay $13 a beer but if they put it in an arena, that's a different story. But yeah, it definitely seems like a return on interest thing, and that leads me into the shackles, the handcuffs, because I am sure that Get Amazed they were like, you have free reign to do whatever you want, but your budget's $53,000 a player. But free reign, whatever you want to do, but stick to the budget. So I reading about, his, interview and the stuff that Get Amazed says, that's what it screamed to me. I could be totally wrong because it's all conjecture, but based on what I've dealt with in this organization in the past, that seems to be what it is. Like, there's going to be a real harsh budget, and that's kind of what he was, alluding to. But I hope they do well. Like, I want the local team to do well. I want all the teams to do well. But this season, if we have a bunch of like shit teams, hey, at least all of the games are going to be fun to watch because they're all going to be shit. So,
Yeah, it's one of those things where it's like, man, I don't even know what to put like the over-under on, like, how many wins a team like the Washington Justice will have in the new season, just because, if so many teams are just going the budget route, you're either going to finish with 0-2, or, maybe you'll be like one of the, 5-6 win teams, and, just ride it out and call it a day. But I don't know. It's, it's still way too early to tell.
You have the toilet bowl in the past, but now you have Arby's on the weekend during free curly fries toilet bowl, which nobody wants to deal with that. So this is going to be an interesting season in terms of player disparity, I guess is the best way to put it.
Yeah, and something that we didn't really have an opportunity to talk about, on the podcast recently. I know CDL is active again, so the Call of Duty League, which of course Activision Blizzard puts on. I mentioned it in our group chat. CDL is back on Twitch for this new season.
Yeah.
So potentially, maybe Overwatch League's gonna follow suit at this point.
It makes sense. Twitch has lots of sexual harassment problems. Blizzard has lots of sexual harassment problems. Two peas in a pod. But realistically, jokes aside, I think the right choice is to just stream on both. Like, why not? Like, stop chasing these exclusivity contracts at this point, because honestly, both companies probably are tired of your shit at this point. Twitch said they would never give you that deal again. Verbatim, like, Dr. Wheat said that would never happen again. And YouTube is making a push, but they don't care at this point. Like, they may give them a contract, but that's not in Blizzard's best interest at this point. Just do what most other esports do and stream on both. And if you want to get certain features, you can push people towards Twitch. If you want to do certain things with the replays, push them towards, YouTube. They're not like us where we have to pick a platform and stick to it to kind of grow the audience. Like, we have to say, you have to be at YouTube. That's the only place you can see us. Blizzard, like, if you type in Overwatch League and Twitch comes up or YouTube comes up, most people don't care. The added benefit is on both, you're going to get at least some people seeing, like, oh, I'm looking for an Overwatch 2 streamer. Okay, well, Twitch is good for visibility there because it sorts by games. Or, oh, I'm looking for, the grand finals replay. Okay, well, YouTube's good there for replays. So I just stream on both, man. But, if they end up going back exclusively to Twitch, I hope we get the command center back, because that is like the one thing I miss from Twitch. Like, emotes, chat, none of that bullshit matters to me. Like, the command center was great. Being able to just, you had to pay for it, but whatever, it was worth, like, whatever it was, like $8 or, $15 or whatever it was this season. I don't remember at this point. I'm old. I forget what was yesterday. But the fact that you could drill down into, like, individual players and watch them was great. And something I hope they pick up from other esports is, you can, like, if you're watching that team, you can hear that team's comms. And, there's, like, the whole, integrity, game integrity and stuff like this. Every other esport does it. Like, Apex does it, Valorant does it, except for, like, the grand finals and stuff like that. You can hear the team comms, and yes, there are a lot of bad words, and yes, it is not for children. But it's so much more fun to watch it. Like, I don't like Apex Pro League at all. Like, it's just not interesting to me, because it ends up being a lot of turtling and a lot of, oh, I'm popping a battery and shit like that. But listening to the comms is fucking hilarious, what they're doing. So I hope they bring that in. But whatever they end up doing, who knows?
I mean, you're gonna be tuning in regardless. All I'm gonna say is,
I'm not
at least, like, on the Twitch side of things, I'm not constantly waiting for, in-game goodies to get delivered like we had been with YouTube. But I digress.
I'm still getting Overwatch League tokens, like, every day I log in. It's hilarious. I'm like, what the fuck? And I haven't checked today, because I did get more Overwatch League tokens today. So maybe I got my grand final skins today, but I don't know. I have to double check on that.
I don't know, but man, the community is really pissed about the incentives on the YouTube front, and understandably so, because it's been several weeks at this point. Because we're even beyond the point where we're like, oh yeah, everything should be delivered at this point in time, and
it's been a month, man.
Like, looking around, like, what the fuck's going on? But anyways,
I'm gonna get my my fucking Dallas Fuel Championship stuff before then. Like, I had to message them today, be like, are you guys actually going to ship this stuff out or what? And they sent back, they were like, yeah, it's just, we weren't ready for the amount of people that were going to order this stuff. And I was like, really? Like, you're like the...
You're the hands-on favorites to win, and you're one of the bigger, like, merchandise selling teams.
Yeah, exactly. So they were like, but yeah, it should be shipping soon, TM. And I was like, oh, great. God damn it. Like, I got a package today, and it was from, like, a seller I didn't recognize, and I was like, oh, this is it, because it was, like, the right size, like the hoodie size with the shirt in it. I opened it up. It was a Christmas present I ordered for one of the kids, and I was like, son of a bitch.
Giving your hopes up for nothing. But anyway, speaking of upcoming streams, we got a banger coming up tomorrow. I'm super excited for this. If you're missing, like, the Apex days of Overwatch, well, guess what? You're in luck, because we have the Korea Legends event dropping tomorrow. That would be Friday, December 9th. This is happening at 4 a.m. Eastern time, so go check the VOD when it drops. But we have, these Korean legend teams coming back for Overwatch 2. The showcase is going to feature GC Busan, Kongdu Panthera, Lunatic High, and Runaway. So we don't have like a ton of details about like the full teams in regards to who's playing. They did release a video. So these are the confirmed names that we know of for this showcase. We have Prophet, Rascal, Eska, Hoxel, Gesture, Birdring, Runner, and Rio Jehan. So, all in all, when you look at that list, it just makes me feel all warm and fuzzy. This is bringing me back. Obviously, Lunatic High and Runaway were the two teams that drew me into competitive Overwatch. So to see these teams compete really in any form is going to be absolutely fantastic. And say what you will about show matches in general and how everything's kind of like done up. But we're going back to like the glory days of Overwatch. So to see some of these players back and just playing the game in 5v5 is definitely something I'm looking forward to. And it does kind of make me wonder, like, well, how many of like the newer Overwatch fans even know about any of these players outside of Profit, really? I mean, would be
Yeah.
probably the sole exception out of the lot here.
You mean the fake goat Prophet that everybody on Reddit was? I don't know. That was a whole nother thing. But you know what I am most excited about this announcement for? Good observing, because if they get any of those Apex guys that observed those games, man, this is going to be awesome to watch. As a VOD, because like you said, I am not staying up till 4 a.m. to watch it. But this is really cool. Like I like that they're doing this. The fact that they can pull in some of these old timers at this point, I guess we could call them. Me, the almost 40-year-old, calling a 23, 24-year-old an old timer. Is that's esports, but
Hey, we're talking about competitive gaming, okay?
yeah, exactly. My kid, fun story. My kids are like, "Wow, you're really good at Overwatch," which I'm okay at Overwatch. But to them, I'm really good at Overwatch because I can put my mouse over someone that's standing still as Widowmaker and shoot them. But they're like, "You should go pro," and I'm like, "A, no, that lifestyle is not for me anymore. And B, I'm about 24, 25 years past my prime at this point. So no, I am much too old for that. But these guys are not too old for that. They are just old by gaming standards. So this is going to be really fun to watch. Like I am glad that they are doing this. I think they need to do more of this kind of thing in the off season, especially since we're looking at maybe possibly a longer off season, to keep the hype generated. More of these like tier 2-ish tournaments, like the Calling All Heroes, the Legends Return, Legends of the Hidden Temple. Like, who knows at this point? But whatever they want to do, Ramatra and Symmetra versus all. I don't come up with this shit. They do. So, I'm just glad to see that they're doing this. I was surprised to see Ryu Jaehong pop up on that list, because he kind of left the Overwatch space in a bit of a scandal. But as far as like Overwatch scandals go, it was fairly tame. It was just some derogatory marks. But at the end of the day, I guess people forgave him because everybody I saw talking about it, and even in some of the comments and stuff that I made my wife translate, people seem generally excited for it. So more power to him.
Absolutely. So that'll be dropping tomorrow. Definitely going to be something I'll be watching at some point this weekend. Outside of that, you did mention Calling All Heroes. I did see a couple more teams or Overwatch League teams announcing that they're partnering with some of the competitive teams for that as well, which is great to see. Which is something that we were talking about last week in regards to the New York Excelsior roster pivot, or what direction that they're looking to take with the roster. So good to see more league support for CAH, and hopefully more teams will be hopping on board to partner with them as well. But that's basically it on the competitive Overwatch front of the news. So let's jump into seeing what's going on around the watch. So a lot of stuff happening with season 2, of course. We had a Twitter space talking about balance changes. We had a Twitter AMA. But before I get into that really quick, just a reminder, next week, we're going to basically be having 2 episodes. I'll be sitting down with Symmetra voice actor Anjali Bhamani next week, which is going to be great timing, considering that one, Symmetra is one of the heroes that had some balance changes with the season 2 patch, and it's going to be an interesting conversation because she has been described to me as a quote whirlwind. But Anjali is just very energetic, so I'm looking forward to that. But on the Overwatch 2 front, I do know it was announced earlier today. This isn't in the show notes, but we do have Overwatch teaming with Microsoft Rewards. So players are going to be able to redeem Microsoft Rewards points for Overwatch coins. So, another way to convert to buy in-game stuff with the shop. And they're also hosting a giveaway over on the Overwatch Twitter as well, where they have an exclusive Ramatra skinned Xbox Series X up for grabs. So if that interests you, go check out their Twitter, enter the contest, and maybe you'll come out with an Xbox, so you could have the lesser console.
Hey,
but anyways,
hey, you don't talk bad about the Game Pass machine. I love the Game Pass machine.
Okay, see, here's my point of view with Xbox, just in general. As a PC player, I literally have no reason to own an Xbox. That's basically what it is.
that's fair. As a father of 3 kids who does not want anyone to touch my computer, and somehow I have lost 2 laptops to children now, it is paramount that I own an Xbox, just because, like I said, it is a Game Pass machine. So I do not have to buy shovelware games like Last Kids on Earth, like DC Super Pets, dumb crap like that. So as much as I'd love to own a PlayStation 5 for their exclusives, I am perfectly fine waiting 2 years until those exclusives come out on PC. But my son loves to play Minecraft on the Xbox. So, for what it is, it's pretty cool. I kind of wish I would have known about this, because he was playing on an Xbox One. For anybody not familiar with Xboxes and their dumbass naming, situation, that is the old one. Not the 360, but the one after that. So that was, previous generation console. Ours finally died last week or the week before. So we bit the bullet, and we ended up getting a Series S, just because the other thing that went wrong with it is, and this is something anybody who has small kids know, they like to stick things where they don't belong, which can absolutely be taken out of context. But it's true. So the disk drive on our Xbox One went bad because my son, who is now 7, when he was 3, decided to stick a gift card, not a real gift card, a fake gift card, into the optical drive. So now,
I was thinking you were gonna go like the peanut butter route.
No,
I've
no.
definitely heard that quite a bit.
No. I'm careful with food around electronics. I've learned that lesson through myself, because I'm a slob. But no, he stuck the fake gift card in there, ruined the optical drive. So it became an Xbox One S, which is basically what we bought, which is an Xbox Series S, which is, all digital. So I wish this would have been there before, because maybe I could have won a Ramatra version, and then I would have taken more care of it, because I'm like, you don't fuck with Ramatra. That guy will mess you up. But the other fear is that the Xbox would come alive and kill us in our sleep, because that also seems like something Ramatra would do. So, there's that. But the rewards points to Overwatch coins is interesting, because I have a butt ton of rewards points from my son playing on the Xbox that I haven't touched. So I'm curious to dig into that a little more, because maybe I don't need to buy the next couple of battle passes. So it'll be fun. The kid's a gold miner, and he doesn't even know it yet.
There you go. See, it's all about how you could, use things for your advantage on that front. But anyways, on the season 2 front, as I mentioned, we did have a Twitter AMA with lead hero designer Alec Dawson. And, of course, one of the bigger things that came up was with the support queue and what could be done about it. And of course, Alec doubled down on the team's plan to release additional support heroes, saying long term, though, we'll be making additional support heroes. For some time, every 4 heroes, you'll see 1 tank, 1 DPS, and 2 support. So, just looking at how the current release schedule is, they were talking about every other season at this point. So, I can only imagine that after we finish this loop with the 112, we'll circle back again to another 112. And then at that point, who knows? But you can at least assume that for the next cycle, we're to continue to see this trend. But man, so many things in regards to the state of support right now are also attached to the balance changes of the game.
Lack thereof.
Yeah, lack thereof. Exactly. Just add in another support hero. Sure, that's great. But at the same time, we just saw a new tank hero, and then, here we are a couple of days after the patch, and tank queues are still 10 minutes just for role queue. Unranked, and that's not even counting like competitive, because even like on the higher ends of competitive, the tank queues have been absolutely ridiculous. So it's basically hitting every aspect of the queue system. But for support, I mean, it's primarily just been balance related and just overall just not having a lot to look forward to in game, knowing that there's not a lot of changes on the horizon, and then when they do appear, they are so minuscule to the actual game and how the game is played that it's just hardly noticeable. So it's like not much has really changed at this point in time.
What are you talking about? I've seen Battle Mercy in every single game that I've played so far this week. Somebody whips out the pistol and it's like, I've got this. And then they realize it's terrible and they switch back to Kiriko or Zen or, whatever. Moira, mostly Moira. It's all, God, there's so much Moiras. People shit on Moira, but Moira is legit like the most fun support to play other than Brig. I think Brig can be pretty fun too, as long as you're not getting like completely shit on.
Yeah, Spyder, I think the majority of that, at least from the Moira perspective, is support players just being like, you know what? Fuck this. If you guys aren't going to help me, I'm going in to help myself.
See, when I do that, like there are certain games that I will play Moira, just because I look at the team comp and I'm like, okay, we need a lot of healing for this team comp. But generally, if I want a DPS as a support, I just pick Zenyatta, man, because they just throw the orb on somebody and then, okay, I'm done. Like, maybe I have to move it around once in a while, but, other than that, it's just, throwing balls down corridors and hitting headshots. So I don't know, but yeah, the supports need a lot of love right now. Like, and it seems like they're aware of it, but I wish they would just like come out and completely say like, they've said like, oh, we're not happy with supports. Like there's a lot of balance changes we could do and stuff like that. I wish they would just come out and point blank being like, look, okay, we realize playing support sucks right now. That's why no one wants to do it. We are going to fix this immediately. Like mid-season balance patch is going to be all supports, bug fixes, and maybe some outliers that we find in like DPS. But that's what they need to do, because right now support players, like you said, are basically at this point where we're like, fuck it, like who cares? Like I can tell you every game I played today, actually over the past 3 days as support, I went Zenyatta unless I absolutely could not play Zenyatta, because I'm like, well, whatever happens, at least I can win a duel and fight my own fight, kind of thing. So it's it sucks. They paid so much attention to the other 2 roles that they neglected this role, and it's affecting everybody, because support, I could probably tell you support was probably one of the more least played roles in general, over tank and DPS. Like whenever I go out and I'm wearing my Overwatch stuff, no one is like, oh yeah, I'm a Mercy main, I'm an Ana main, I'm a Zenyatta main. No, they're always like, oh well, I'm a tank player or I'm a DPS player. Like I've never run across somebody who's like, I'm a support player by choice. Like there have been people that have been like, yeah, I main Hanzo and Widowmaker, but I mostly play support now because I have to, and that's a terrible state for a game to be in. Nobody wants it. Like I had to heal tonight on World of Warcraft, and I hated every fucking minute of it, like every minute of it, because I'm a dragon. I want to do fire things, not do green healy things, and that's the fun of Overwatch. So I think they need to take a look at the support role in depth and be like, we need to change things across the board.
Yeah, because it's like they mentioned like, oh yeah, we got to change the rally comment for Brig, but it's like it's further down the line than what they were initially anticipating. So like we know that they're looking at doing some reworks, not necessarily across the board, but to certain heroes within the role. But things just aren't happening at the rate that the community would like to see. So when we are looking at these balance changes, which we'll talk about here in a bit, and people look at the support changes, everyone just kind of like scuffs and like, what? Like this is the direction we're going, and then I know it's an entire mood being support right now in Overwatch 2. Now, that being said, we'll get to the patch itself soon. We do have some changes to the battle pass. Of course, you've been mentioning about time to reward investments and all of that stuff with your upcoming battle pass video. And we did see a couple of changes to the battle pass with season 2, most notably. The one that sticks out for a lot of people is for unlocking new heroes. So specifically talking about Ramatra, if you don't want to shell out the $10 for instant access with a premium battle pass, you will now be unlocking new heroes at level 45 of the battle pass. Initially, it was 55 with Kiriko last season. We also saw some changes in regards to the weekly challenges being tuned to be easier to complete. I know you have already knocked some of these out. So Spyder, like investment wise, like how much quicker was it for like the weeklies?
it was, I don't want to say it wasn't noticeable, but it was not anywhere near what they need to be. And I talk about like what I think they should do for weeklies in the video, so I'm not going to rehash that here, but across the board, like they only changed, I think it was like 5 out of the 11 weeklies, maybe 6. I had it up a second ago, but then I closed it before the show, so I should have left it up. But they didn't change all the weeklies. They changed half of them or less, and they lowered them by basically like 10 to 20% depending on which weekly. So if you accounted for all the weeklies, it was like a 12% decrease in time. Like 12%. Okay. Just to give you an idea, to complete all your weeklies is about 15 to 20 hours of investment if you focus on those weeklies. Like this is if you sit down and you're like, okay, I'm going to win 5 arcade games that used to be 7. I'm gonna only play healing so I get the healing thing. I'm gonna only play tank so I get the tank thing, and then play whatever's left over for DPS, because obviously you're gonna be picking up damage along the way for the other 2 roles. It's so fucking minuscule what they did. They were like, we have these awesome battle pass changes and we're going to be making more changes. Okay, well, you didn't make any changes. You basically you were like, okay, lower everything by 10% and that'll shut them up for a little bit. Like, no. And the same thing with like moving Ramatra down 10 tiers. Like, sure, it's appreciated for free to play players, but you basically took it from 69% of the way through battle pass to 52% of the way through the battle pass. So the time investment didn't change that much for the average player because they're still locked behind these stupid weekly and daily quest system. It's it's a step in the right direction, which is what they said they were doing this season, and then they have more. So I don't want to be overly critical, but I do have to kind of call them out on, like, they were a little condescending about it. They were like, hey guys, good news, we've moved Ramatra down 10 levels, hope you guys really enjoy it, have a great time. And I'm like, no, like this is where he should have started, and then you should be moving him down 10 more levels.
Yeah, like for me, I would say just split the difference. Go half the battle pass. Just put it at 40.
I literally in the video say 35 to 40 is perfectly fine. Like, and that puts him in an acceptable range for people who really want to grind him, to get him before he unlocks in competitive, while still making it kind of incentivized to buy if you really want it. So this, you know, I will treat this as a step in the right direction, but I can tell you that I held off on the video for this and it wasn't fucking worth it. Like, I had to reshoot stuff for fucking 10%. Like, it was so dumb. You know, luckily I did all the graphs in Excel, so the graphs were easy to change. It was just recording, you know, re-recording the video and stuff like that. So, step in the right direction, but they need to come out with something concrete, you know, over the next couple of weeks. Like, here's our plans for season 3, here's our plans for season 4, because if they don't, it's going to end badly for them, because we have market studies of what poor progression systems will do to a game. Just look at Halo Infinite. You know, that game that I fucking forgot existed.
Yeah, until I mentioned it.
Yeah, and I have Master Chief sitting right on my desk, like literally sitting right in front of me. So, and I'd show him to you, but the green screen doesn't play well with stuff. So,
Oh yeah. Absolutely. You know, I think the part about this current season's battle pass that made me laugh the most, though, is just like Team 4 was just like, all right, you guys want to be salty bitches? Here, have a salt canister for the fucking battle
that was great.
and a weapon charm.
It's so good. I don't know. You know, you can say what you want about Team 4, but they at least know what's going on. Whether or not they actually do anything about it is up in the air, but they at least know what the community's, you know, feeling at the moment. So, you know, I wouldn't be surprised if we see a Mercy bundle with like a little Mercy pistol with like an extended cartridge coming out of it soon, just to be super funny.
If only. Okay, so outside of that, we also had the introduction of the hero challenges in regards to unlocking previously released heroes. So, you know, we're primarily looking at Kiriko at this point in time, because she was the, you know, season 1 hero, to kind of give us an idea of what to expect for future seasons if you are a returning player. So the time investment in this is another thing that I was like, what the fuck are they thinking? So here's some of the things that you have to do. 1, you have to win 35 games queued as all rules, or support in quick play, competitive play, or no limits. Okay, so there's that. Okay, so like that's the big thing. Then they have basically these practice range challenges, which are all ability based. You have them for all 6 of Kiriko's abilities, where, you know, it's pretty simple. You know, one's like, oh, you have to do this much healing to like friendlies in the practice range, or like the AI bots. Oh, hit a couple of criticals to pass this test. So in regards to like the practice range stuff, very straightforward, simple to do. Anyone can just hop in and do them. But when I saw the win 35 games, I was like, where did they pull that number from? That seems like a pretty big investment.
It is. And I can tell you that because the win fucking 10 games for the weekly has been awful this week. Just because, you know, it's all my teammates' fault. Like 100%. It's my teammates' fault. 100. You know, it's not me not knowing how to play Ramatra. Absolutely, it's all their fault. But you know, I will say the like training ground stuff I actually really like, and I kind of wish they would put that in for all the heroes, so you don't get some dumbass in competitive who's never played Widowmaker picking Widowmaker, and, you know, not being able to hit the fucking broadside of King's Row. But the other stuff, like the win 35 games, like that is, you know, that is a huge time investment. If you're playing solo. Now, if you're playing with a group and you're getting carried, you know, this is something you can blow through in an afternoon, which maybe that's what they're trying to incentivize. Like, I'm trying to think of like all angles, but that does seem like a substantial amount of wins. You know, 25, 20, probably would have been more realistic. And the training challenges, like I said, I actually like that because I feel like that teaches you the kit, and I feel like having that for more heroes is a good idea. Like, just for people who are like, oh, I really want to learn Doomfist, but I don't want to go into quick play and pick Doomfist as our only tank, and then feed for a whole game and get yelled at because people are really sweaty in quick play for some fucking reason. And never want to play Doomfist again, even though I really like that hero, which is almost a real world example for me. But beyond that, I wish they would do like these challenges for more heroes. So I liked that portion. I feel like they just need to bring, again, the time investment down on it. But this is kind of what we knew was coming. Like, this is what they had hinted at. Like, there would be like I thought it would be like play, like if they went like win 20 games or play 40 games, queued as all roles, fine. Like, don't force. And this is the thing that drives me nuts with the Overwatch team, is they try to force wins on people when they have in the past admitted that winning games is largely out of your control for most MMR games. Like, they have said in the past that they've tried to get better at it, like they're trying to balance it better, but they've also blatantly said, like, some MMR games are just blatantly stacked against you and you're not going to win them. So the fact that they're like, well, we're going to make sure you don't win games, but we're going to require you to win games, basically says to me, like, we're going to force you to play incalculable amount of time. So it's crazy to think that they would do that, but they want people playing the game for as long as possible. If this video has taught me anything, that's all they want, is they want people in this game regardless of how they are treating that person.
Absolutely. We do have an update from Ramses in the group chat over Discord. So Wedding's running late, so he may or may not be here later when he gets home. But yeah, win 35 games. That's such a huge investment on top of like the practice range stuff. I really do enjoy. The only caveat to that I will kind of sprinkle in here is just knowing how many issues we have seen in Overwatch 2 in regards to hero bugs and things not working as intended. Here we are again, another patch. We have more issues that are surfacing, some of which I have not been able to see, but I have heard plenty about what has been going on with both Sombra when it comes to the translocator, and you just being like taken underneath maps, and then something's like going on with Hanzo and recoil.
Yeah, okay, so Hanzo has recoil now. I went to play Hanzo the other day and it fucking ruined my day because I was like, all right, I'm gonna do this, and he's literally like, he pulls and shoots and then he goes like this for like no reason. I'm like, oh okay, like, dude, you're a seasoned archer at this point. Like, Soldier 76 doesn't do that with a high-powered assault rifle. Okay. And there, what it says to me is there's a line between him and Kiriko where he's like, I promise never to pick up the blade again. And then she's like, all right, so I'll tell our teacher that you're going to use a sword again. And maybe they're just going to push him to using a sword next patch. Like, they're tired of balancing the logs behind him, and this is their way of making people hate it. Because like every Hanzo player I've talked to in quick play, because I'm like, dude, how do you play Hanzo with this? And he's like, it's awful. Like, I ran into like 3 or 4 of them, and all of them say the same thing. So this has to be a bug. Like, it's so bad, and it's so like discombobulating if you've played Hanzo for any amount of time. I haven't seen the Sombra one because I did play a game as Sombra, and I didn't fall through the map at all. But
okay. I'll see if I can find the clip for you. But on the Hanzo front, my only note to this is it doesn't change anything for me. So it's like I wasn't gonna hit anything regardless. But at least playing against Hanzo, at least now it's just like, hey, I don't have to worry about getting randomly one-shot.
Oh no, that still happens. It's just as long as you're not the first one to get randomly headshotted. Generally after that you're okay, because that first shot is still fine. It's just the subsequent shots is the problem.
Okay. Let's see. I'm trying to remember. Here, I will link it over in our chat.
I can't get to chat easily
Well,
without messing up the cameras.
Have YouTube chat up?
I do.
Let me. We'll see if it times me out. But anyways, while you take a look at the Somber bug, which isn't like super uncommon. We've seen similar bugs with her in the past, with her translocator. Outside of that, okay, so we talked about the battle pass changes, the catch-up hero mechanisms. We also have been seeing some complaints primarily revolving around competitive play, primarily when it comes to MMR and decay.
Mm-hmm.
So
Yeah.
the rank system, really since Overwatch 2 came out, I would say primarily been panned by the community for a number of different reasons. Part of it is just not seeing your rating until you have like that's first to 7 wins or 20 losses, whatever happens first. And what's been happening is a lot of people are coming back to Overwatch 2 for Season 2, and they're seeing them de-rank at the start of the season despite the increases that they saw in competitive. So players who are beginning the new season who had an updated rank saw their ranks drop pretty significantly. So you had Team 4 explaining like, hey, at the end of the season, the player's final rank is going to be based on matches played before their last update. So they'll are applying the rank decay to all roles, and players should be able to climb back to their elo. Now, that being said, I've seen a number of streamers out there saying, like, hey, like, just out of curiosity, like, where did you finish in Season 1? Where did it place you in Season 2? And the differentials that I have been seeing have been pretty damn significant. And,
yeah, it's been interesting.
Like, I can't say I'm too surprised just knowing that over the length of Season 1 for competitive, for one, I'll be honest, I did not finish my placements because of how many issues there were with the rank system and not placing people correctly, just seeing the time investment and then not really seeing people like increase in rank. A lot of people doing lateral movements quite like time and time again in regards to playing competitive. It really just took like my excitement to play competitive just completely out the window, which is why I've been playing so much unranked, just doing the role queue, practicing, when I can here and there. But I'm at a point now where it's just like, you know what? I just want to hop on, play a few games. Comp isn't necessarily like isn't going to be like my first choice ever in Overwatch 2.
Welcome to me 2 years ago.
Yeah.
No, it's.
But at the same time, it's just like seeing how little movement there has been, at least with the rank updates over the course of the season, has just been very like sad to look at. Like when I'm watching NBoss stream, NBoss is a fantastic player, and to see him like only go like one tier above or just not even increase despite whatever his session has been doing, and there are times when he is like going 6-1 and then still seeing that lateral movement. It's just so deflating, even as someone watching it. I can't imagine how he feels actually like going through all of that and then being like, oh great, so
that was a waste of time.
We're back where we started. Yeah.
Yep. No, it's like this whole system is so dumb. Like they took all the lessons that they learned from Overwatch 1, where they're like, okay, players want more information, they want more statistics, they want, just more of everything outside of matches. So we're going to give them the stat board, we're going to give them replays, we're going to give them, stat, like, statistics breakdowns of their past matches in the history. We're going to give them the scoreboards during the game. But we're not going to tell them their rank. We're not going to tell them, how they're doing. We're not going to tell them any of that. Like, they took like the most important aspect of the game for most players, at least people who really get into competitive mode, like the most important statistic, and hit it. because they were like, we don't want people to rank shame you. You know, we don't want the detriment of losses to get down on you. You know what's going to get down on people? The fact that they play 6 games and they don't know how well they did at the end of the night because they didn't play that 7th game. And when they do play that 7th game, if they happen to win and they don't move at all, that is textbook, like people coming back and being like, I never want to play this again in competitive.
Right, and it's also the side of, well, I'm not going to know with that increase between 7 and 26 games from now.
Right. Like,
You know?
there's a simple solution to this. It's every time you win a match, show them getting a small, you know, percentage increase, that they're going up, because that's what should be happening. If you're winning a match, you should be going up. If you lose a match, don't show anything. Put that behind a 20 game losing streak or whatever. Keep that. That's absolutely fine. But if a person goes into their profile, make sure that that number is specific to, you know, whatever they are at that point, regardless of how many wins or losses in a row they have. Like, somebody should always have access to not necessarily their MMR, but at least their ranking. And that was the other thing in this stupid message that has annoyed me, and I don't even play competitive anymore, is they were like, we're going to lower your skill ranking, but we're going to keep your MMR the same. Okay, well, if your MMR system is as good as you claim it is, then we're still only going to win 50% of the games, which means we're not going to move out of this skill ranking regardless of how well we do. Unless the skill ranking has nothing to do with MMR and you're purely basing it on something else, which it seems like is what is going on here, because people have said that they have continued, you know, the regular, you know, winning and losing and still going up ranks, which is fine, but you need to convey that a little better. Like, it seems like their messaging for this whole competitive system is just whacked, and what little, like, inkling I had to play competitive has completely evaporated at this point. Like, unless I end up with some friends who want to play competitive, which is kind of how I ended up last season doing placements, and obviously not on my main account, like, I have no interest in going to competitive, because I'm exactly like you at this point. Like, A, quick play seems sweaty enough at this point, and B, I don't have that much time to play this game as I used to. So I want to come in, I want to goof around. Like, literally tonight, we did some Dragonflight mythics, and then I was like, okay, I don't really have time to do another mythic, so let me hop into Overwatch and play a couple of dumbass games. And I literally went into the arcade and did, like, some team deathmatch, and, you know, I did no limits, where everybody's like, all right, 10v10 Ramatra, and we were like, okay, cool, 10v10 Ramatra. And we did one push as 10v10 Ramatra, and everybody's like, this is fucking stupid. So then we went, 8v8 Ramatra with Moiras on each side, and then, you know, it kind of cascaded from there when I went Bastion, and they didn't like that. But, you know, that's on me. But the competitive system is in such a bad state. Like, this is another thing. Like, I hope Blizzard this season, now that, you know, the launch is gone, the growing pains are hopefully, you know, settling down. They have their team dedicated to PvE. It seems like they already have the events well in order at this point. I think this is the season that they really need to step up, say, all right, we're going to fix the progression system. We're going to fix the competitive system. Here is how we are going to do it. Because that third step is the most important. Like, they need to come out and say, you know, this is the exact steps we're going to take for both of those previous issues. And I think if they do that, the community as a whole will be like, okay, well, it fucking sucks now, but at least we know how they're going to fix it, and they're going to give them a pass. If they go back to the Blizzard standard of silence, or the, you know, what I have up on the screen right now, like we're not happy with how this is turning out, like, this is blah, 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 blah. Like, the PR bullshit is not going to cut it for them anymore, because now that they are in the free-to-play market, they may have access to more users, but guess what? They have a lot more competition as well. So it's not pretty how they're treating their clients, their customers right now. So sorry, I said clients because my work calls them clients. But yeah, it's an issue, and, you know, they need to address it.
Yeah, and with the free to play model too, just in regards to fluctuations in the player base, you can see them come in heavy droves. And from my position, with the state that competitive is in right now, I have no desire to play it, and because of that, I know a lot of people feel the same, which is why you have that sort of ripple effect that is seeping into quick play, into the role limits, where the games have been a lot sweatier because people are like wanting to play competitive, but just cutting out all the bullshit that they're having to deal with. Which is
Hmm.
why, like, during a beta, I really liked just like okay, we're gonna have competitive rules, but it's going to be unranked.
And I've been pushing for that since they implemented it. Like, I think that's a great change. The other thing I wish they would implement is like a little icon or something, like Final Fantasy has it, like, so who new players are, because there was a Mercy in a game yesterday that did not do well. Like, I was a Zenyatta, and I had triple her healing,
Mhm.
like 8 minutes into a push map, which, a Mercy should be able to keep up with Zenyatta or surpass Zenyatta if she's doing a good job, or at least halfway paying attention. And our team was like going to town on her. They're like, "You're the first player in this world." Like,
Now, okay, now really quick, you're not saying that she was a battle mercy.
no, no,
She
no,
just
no.
wasn't healing.
She wasn't. And they literally replied like, "This is my third game. I don't know what's going on." And at that point,
Yeah.
the rest of the team was like, "Oh, sorry. Like, we didn't know. Like, just ask us. We'll help you." And that's not something I expected to happen. Like, I thought people being like, "Oh, well, you suck at this game. Don't ever play again." So at least
Uninstall now.
yeah, at least my team brought it back and was like, "Oh, well," like, one guy even apologized, which fucking, like, I fell out of my chair because I've never seen that on the internet before. But he was like, "Oh, I'm so sorry. I'm just so used to bad mercies. Playing battle mercy after the patch." And the person was like, "I just don't know what to do. Like, I don't know where to stand. I keep dying."
Mhm.
And they were like, "Okay, well, here, just stand behind the pillar and heal." And like, they actually tried to help him. But had we known that person was a new player at the beginning of the game, we could have avoided all that like hardship. So
Mhm.
that's, a little tangential, but I hope that's something that they can put in, because at the end of the day, if they're a new player, it's not gonna like make anything worse on them in quick play. Like, you may get some more flame stuff in comp if you've made it to comp at that point, but I think at that point, once you have made it to be able to play comp, that little icon should disappear.
Mhm.
But in quick play, that's something they need to change. But I 100% agree. Like, there's a lot more sweaty people, I think, right now, just in quick play, because they want to play Ramatra, and that's the only place they can play him. And like you said, with the competitive changes, I'm sure that's had, there could have been a person last season, and I ran into multiple masters and grandmasters players in my quick play games, which, this is handy now, because if you got masters or grandmasters, you got a title, and everybody's gonna fucking equip that title. So, as soon as I see the enemy team has a, grandmaster widowmaker, the whole game is basically just like, "Okay, well, what are we going to do this time?" Kind of thing. So it's such like a ripple down effect. And you know the the three games that I played in arcade tonight were vastly more fun than I played earlier this morning when I was in quick
Mhm.
play. And that's not how, like, Overwatch has always been better when you play like the core playlist. The arcade has always been like a fun distraction, but it's never been that go-to, like, "Okay, boy, I really want to get in there and play capture the flag," kind of feeling. So
Mhm.
they got some work to do.
Absolutely. So, enough beating around the bush. Let's talk about the season 2 balance changes. We've got quite a bit here with this patch. I know there was mention of like overtime in control game mode, which is just like kicking off at like 99%. That's been active. Um, Trying to think of what else. We got a new shop update for hero specific purchases. So we got a new tab. Ooh, fantastic. So, if you want to shell out more money, you can go to hero specific stuff. But yeah, so, they there's some very general statements about competitive play in the patch notes. Like, in particular, uh, implemented a group of matchmaking enhancements to improve match quality. You know,
Yay.
these are the sort of notes that you look at and you're like, well, what the fuck does that mean? That doesn't tell us anything.
No.
You know?
These are the kind of patch notes that they need to get rid of. Like, you need to tell us what you fixed. Did you fix matchmaking when people are stacked in different sizes groups? Did you fix matchmaking with people who are at different tier brackets when they party together? Did you fix matchmaking when you were playing solo and you know they want to make you the carry for the team when you're playing support, you know, because you know they don't describe these things. Like they say they base it on MMR, but you know, what if your support player is your highest ranked player, but the enemy's team's DPS player is their highest ranked player? There's a huge disparity in your impact on the game. Sure, as a support, if you are good enough, you can make up for bad DPS and a bad tank to a degree, but not the same level that a good tank and a good DPS can make up. Especially tank. Like, a bad tank is basically a sunk ship at this point. So you know, these competitive notes are, you know, borderline insulting. Okay, Ramatra's not available for 2 weeks. Cool, we know that. Okay, we added a new icon to tell you that Ramatra's not available for 2 weeks. Okay. Okay, we changed some group matchmaking. Okay, but how? Like, you say you've made improvements, but you don't say what those improvements were. So they need to, you know, they need to, if they are going to do these patch notes like this, they need to put a blog post along with it for, like, okay, here's the blog post for matchmaking, here's the blog post for hero philosophy, here's the blog post for, you know, maybe not bug fixes, but here's some major bugs that we're aware of, at least, you know, stuff like an on-running current bug tracker or something.
And it's so weird to me too, because like when you go over balance updates in the game, you know, you always have those developer comments underneath the changes going into more detail about that. But when it comes to like core aspects of competitive, that's just not present at all. So it's just like this weird communication error to the point where it's just like, well, yeah, it might be on here, but you know, as a player, you're just questioning, like, well, did they actually implement a change to it, or are they just throwing this on here and tagging it on, and you know, nothing has actually changed in game? We have no idea. Like,
Right.
there's no way of telling.
But why? As the philosophers would say. Yeah, it's really weird because some of the developer comments are good. I don't agree with all of them, but at least we get to see some of the thought process behind it. Which is what we need for the other sections. Like, we're looking at like the general hero updates right now. Like they removed the speed bonus from the DPS roll passive and lowered the speed increase. Good. Like they explain, like, you know, the speed increase was not needed. It, you know, it made some heroes way too noticeable, and it didn't affect other heroes at all, or it affected them in a negative way, is what they say. Like, it affects aiming because you're not used to moving that fast back and forth. And then they changed reload speed, is, I guess, the correction I need to make to what I said, which again nerfed certain heroes more than other heroes. Like Ashe, you know, it was like the big proponent of this. This is why people were actually playing Ashe, is because you get a kill with Ashe, you can reload your gun so fast that it kind of took out, you know, one of her major downsides. Whereas now, moving it down 10%, it's noticeable, but it's not as good. So you're going to be playing other heroes regardless. So, but at least we know the thought process behind it, and that's kind of what we need throughout the patch notes.
Absolutely. So, you know, as we talked about, obviously the big thing is the release of Ramatra. So overall, you know, the toolkit for Ramatra, I really enjoy. Actually, played Ramatra leaves a lot to be desired. I'll be honest.
Yeah.
You know, Because there's definitely times where you're like, okay, this is the tempo tank. All right, well, we're gonna push, but we're only gonna push 8 seconds at a time. All right, I don't have anything left. Let's back around the corner.
Yep.
All right, I'm gonna keep trying to poke. The the
Yeah.
biggest question that I had, going in was, are they actually going to address the hit indicators on the staff and the nanites?
No.
No,
No.
they did not, and I'm like. It was so obvious based off of the trailer and the dev update that they put out that this was going to be something that needed to be addressed, and they didn't. I'm not gonna say I'm surprised by it. I'm not gonna say I'm disappointed by it, but I'm just like, it was right there, and like for us as like the consumer, like we immediately notice it right out of the gate. So it's just one of those things where just like, hopefully down the line that's going to be something that they're going to look at. But for the most part, it's just like Ramatra dripped coolness on everything that we saw out of like the press kit. But then when you get hands on with him, he's just he's not the OP hero that many people were making him out to be. And I can't say I'm too surprised by this solely based off of the fact that, well, look at what happened with Kiriko and Sojourn. They were so meta defining,
And
that
Junker
Team
Queen.
4 is probably like, and Junker Queen at time, yeah, that's also true until they nerfed her. They look at that and they're like, oh shit, like, we can't have this again. But then it just feels like you are playing a tank who has his legs cut off at this point with Ramatra.
It's so bad. Like, a Reinhardt can just swing into you, and there's nothing you can do about it. Like, even if you go Nemesis form and you go to punch him or you go to block or any of that, you're basically just buying time until you die. As long as that Reinhardt is getting properly supported by at least one support. It doesn't even have to be two pocketed. Like, a single support is enough to keep Reinhardt up, because I've done it as a Zenyatta. Like, that's how sad it is. He like you said, he's just not satisfying to play. Like, his hit registration, maybe not registration, but like you said, feedback on the staff is not satisfying. Like, there was the first game of Vermatra I played was on Blizzard World, which was cool. I was like, cool, I get to play Blizzard World. I haven't played this in a long time. We were on defense. The enemy team was awful, like, just terrible. Like, the Hanzo was literally standing up on one of the statues multiple times, and I would just beam him down as the staff. And I'm like, dude, any other character, this would feel great to like rock the headshots on Hanzo, but for him it was just like, okay, he's dead. Okay, he's dead. Kind of thing. It was really disappointing. And then when I switched to Nemesis form, I'm like, okay, this is the cool, like, big punchy mode, and even the hit feedback on the punches isn't great. Like, it's I don't know what it is. It's just like they took all of the sound design and feedback design that they learned going into Overwatch 2 and just forgot to apply it to Ramatra. His ultimate, while cool, doesn't feel good to use because it just doesn't do enough damage. Like, any of the damage that you do can be healed through if both of the supports are alive, even if they do not have a cooldown up. Like, if you're going to give a tank a damage ultimate, it needs to be a damage ultimate. Or you need to apply something else to it, like a slow or something like that to it. It's just, and I said it to you, like, if you end up with like Ramatra versus Ramatra, there are instances where you can sit there both of you in your ultimate, not doing anything for just like a stalemate period of time over like minutes. And I have a clip of me versus another Ramatra, and he literally only grabs a health pack and has a support behind him, and I have one support behind me, and we are literally just punching each other. The ultimate's going, we occasionally block. It goes on for like 45 seconds before anybody even does anything. And both of us started at like half health, so that's absurd. So there are some changes to his kit. I will say the Vortex feels good to use. I think it needs a vertical buff because its intended function of keeping like Pharah and Mercy doesn't really come into play because any good Pharah Mercy Echo just zips out of it before it happens. Art is never in range of it. Like I forget who it was. I think it was Flats showed that Echo can literally just dash out of it and then go up. Like so. That needs some kind of buff to it. I will say it's really good against Lucios and Baptiste. Because Lucios just do not expect it, and you ground them, and they're like, oh crap, what do I do? What do I do? And then they eventually get away because you're Ramatra and you can't do anything to actively kill them on a regular basis. But as a whole, he needs a lot of tuning and a lot of just, I don't want to say kit redesign, but the Blizzard polish needs to take another pass over him, because I do think his kit is fun to play. I think given the right amount of love, I think he could be a very good tank without being an overpowered tank. Like, I think you should be able to go toe to toe with Reinhardt when you're in that Nemesis form, which is kind of what I expected going into seeing Ramatra. But you can't. Like, you just can't put up that fight against Reinhardt. Reinhardt's damage is too consistent, and he has too many tools to just outplay you. Doomfist is very popular right now. Doomfist just shits on Ramatra because there's nothing you can do about it. It's like, okay, he's jumping in. Let me hit him as he goes by. Okay, well, he's here. Let me go to Nemesis form. Okay, he's gone. My Nemesis form is gone. Okay, he's back. And now I literally cannot do anything about him. And all of his skills, he can get out of the vortex. So if he, unless the Doomfist is really bad and tries to actually vertically jump while in the vortex, which I've never seen a Doomfist do, he'll just punch out of it and then jump. It's disappointing because I really liked the way this character looked. I like the way he plays in theory. Like, I like the idea behind it, but it needs a little bit of a change. And we've seen this in the past. Like, actually, Sojourn is a good example of this. Like, Sojourn, when she first came out, her kit was really fun to play as, but she needed a lot of like minor changes. Like, they upped the rail radius, they changed the charge time, and then they decreased the charge time, which I think was the right call. So there are a lot of little changes that you could do to Ramatra, not just from a number standpoint, but just from like a ability generation standpoint, I think is, I guess, the best way to put it. So we'll see how they make some changes. I'm sure they said they're going to try to do a patch before competitive. I think they said that in season 1, so don't hold me to that, but they said they wanted to do like a small competitive patch when he goes into competitive, and then they're going to do like a bigger mid-season patch, I think is the cadence that they were trying for. And I hope they do that, because I'd like to see him in, streamers' hands, in pro players' hands, to see what he can really do, because every pro player that I watched basically played like 2 games of him and said, this is awful, I'm going back to competitive, I'm going to play Doomfist now. Like, the only streamers that continued to like run him all day were like Seagull and Flats and Emong, because they were queued up as a group and they were just basically farming money for content, our content for money. So it's sad, but this is where we are with Ramatra.
Absolutely. So Doomfist saw quite a bit of changes in regards to his toolkit. So his Rocket Punch saw his impact damage range increased. The Wall Slam damage range was reduced. His Empowered Punch Wall Slam stun duration was also reduced. I'm not going to go over like all the numbers, but you can just look at the patch notes. The knockback radius was also reduced. You do have the cancel option becoming available, being reduced as well as the cooldown. So quite a bit there. Power block cooldown reduction was lowered. The duration was increased by half a second. And the minimum damage mitigated required to empower your Rocket Punch was reduced to 80 damage. Meteor Strike also empowers Rocket Punch on landing. That's a pretty big one. And the enemy's slow duration was increased by a second. And then we also saw some changes to his passive, where the temporary health was increased by 50, so it's at 200 health. And temporary health gained per target hit with abilities was increased from 30 to 40 health. Now, I have never been a Doomfist player. I don't think I've even played Doomfist since he became a tank, to be honest.
I've selected him. I don't know if what I did with him could be called playing him. I fed aggressively as him, but yes, I am in the same boat as I am. I cannot label myself a Doomfist player.
Yes. So what I will say is this. I have been running up against a lot of Doomfist. Basically, when the other tank is just like, you know what, Ramatra sucks. Everyone's like locking Doomfist instead, basically, or Junker Queen to a degree, just not to the same extent. And Doomfist, I mean, playing against him feels like he is in a pretty good spot by comparison sakes to where he was initially. And some of these changes I really like the meteor strike and power and rocket punch when you land. I thought was one of the bigger changes coming out of this. Also, seeing like a temporary health increase was also pretty nice as well. So a little bit more survivability. The caveat to that is also just the fact that, well, if Doomfist is going to be seeing a lot more play, enter Sombra into the fold again, regardless of any bugs that may happen. But hey, if Sombra's bugged out right now, Doomfist might have free reign at this point.
And he pretty much does.
Yeah.
So, Doomfist's big counter was always Sombra and Ana. And Ana it's so hard to play Ana right now in the current state of Overwatch 2. Especially against this more empowered Doomfist. Like, the sleep dart is handy. The problem is, right, the sleep dart is on such a long cooldown, even with the reduction, that he can effectively block multiple times during that sleep dart cooldown, assuming that your team is going to wake them up, which they are. I mean, let's be honest, they're going to wake him up. So, I don't, I said it at the beginning of the show, but I don't want to double down on it too much. I feel like we are entering a meta where Doomfist is viable. I will say that I feel Roadhog is still a better pick for most comps, because he can counter Doomfist. Like, every game that I saw a Ramatra v Ramatra turn into a Ramatra or a Roadhog versus Doomfist, the Roadhog won, regardless of which side I was on. So I can't take credit for any of that. I was just following the Roadhog at that point. So Roadhog seems still to be very good into this. It just seems like that Roadhog has to understand that they have to play a little bit of a different style rather than going for picks with the hook 100% of the time. They have to realize that, you wait till the Doomfist comes in and he blocks, then you hook him and then you kill him, kind of thing. Because people have not figured out that shooting the Doomfist block is actually worse than shooting a Zarya bubble right now because of the rate that he gets the punches and stuff. It's insane the speed that he gets his cooldowns now, because like I was tracking it earlier in my head when I was playing against one. I was like, all right, blocks off cooldown, rocket punches off cooldown, his sleeps off cooldown. This is the chance we get to kill him. Oh, cool, rocket punches back. He's gone. Okay, bye. So I don't want to go overboard with this because I feel like Doomfist is in a good spot right now, and I don't want to make like a snap knee-jerk judgment just because I hate fucking playing against the Doomfist. Like, I'm trying to rein that in a little bit, but it feels like he's finally in a good place. Oh, Ramses is here.
I live.
He is.
He does live.
All right, let me
You adjust momentarily. Ramses, we're in the middle of talking about the balance changes with the Season 2 patch.
Oh, I see. Here, give me 1 second. Sorry, guys.
So it's all good. We're currently talking about the Doomfist changes and how he currently feels in the game.
Have you guys played against live Doomfist?
Yep.
It's not fun.
It's I was just saying that I don't want to make like too many snap judgments, but he can be rather oppressive at times.
Yeah, it's in my like brief experience of playing against it, it felt like Doomfist himself was strong, but like deal with. But it was more like if you don't have strong DPS, you can provide a lot of pressure. Then they can just have an Ashe or a Sojourn sit like 40 yards away from you and just hit you down the entire time. Like Doom is really good, but like he enables so much at this point.
Absolutely. But, regardless, it was at a point where Doomfist just wasn't seeing play at all, and it definitely, he was one of the weaker tanks, and, he wasn't the only weaker tank that they did address, because we also saw some changes to Junker Queen with this. So we saw hit volume size increases for her torso and head, because her hitbox was a little wonky. We also saw changes to Rampage with the wound duration being reduced from 5 to 4.5 seconds. The ultimate cost was also reduced by 10%. Command and Shout had its cooldown reduced from 15 to 14 seconds. And then her Adrenaline passive with her healing multiplier was increased from 1 to 1.25 times damage dealt by the wounds. Junker Queen was an interesting case because when she initially came out, she was really strong. We saw balance changes, which really outright just took her out of the meta. For the foreseeable future, and now she got a little bit more love, but it still feels like it's going to be a niche pick at this point in time. But at least playing against her, like when I'm playing Reinhardt going up against a Junker Queen, that still doesn't feel good, but at least the hit registry is a little bit better against her at this point in time. So like when I'm trying to hit her with the Fire Strike, I'm not like just going over her shoulder, essentially, like what it was in the past.
Yeah. Ramses, you go first.
I mean, she brawls well still. It's one of those characters like is fun to play, but like isn't necessarily like really good at this point. No, like they'll probably bump her up a little bit. She didn't see the same jump in play that we saw like with Doomfist. At least personally, what I saw with Bastion. She like maybe she gets there at some point, but now she's just a little more viable.
Yeah, it's just it wasn't enough. Like they buffed her self healing by a minuscule amount, but then made her take more damage by more amount than they buffed her. So it doesn't really offset. Like I understand after the Junker Queen meta, like they want to like slow roll her back into at least play, if not prominence. But it was kind of sad. Like I tried to play her a couple of times after my failed Ramatra attempts, and it didn't go any better. Like she just falls over. So I feel like she needs a little bit more. And Doomfist just shits on her because he comes in, bullies your team, and then leaves. And Junker Queen's basically left holding the axe like, okay, well, I'm going to yell at you from over here and oh, you're gone again. Damn it. Now I got to wait 15 seconds before I can chase you again. Meanwhile, Doomfist is, 4 laps around the map. So, yeah, she's just getting hero creeped by, all the other tanks at this point.
She needs like a demoralizing shout to deal with the Doomfist. That's what we need. Come on.
Well, because like they were talking about it in that Battle for Olympus mode that like apparently like commanding shout does damage as well.
See, something like that would be cool. Like if you can land a hit on Doomfist with your axe, Doomfist can't use his abilities for like 3 seconds because you've literally cut off his legs. Something like that would be awesome because I feel like she would be this really fun brawler that can like, as you're hitting people, you're making them weaker. Like I feel like that would be a cool aspect for her because the hitting them to heal yourself is already there, so the fact that you're wounding them makes them weaker would also be more fun for her, as long as they balance it accordingly. But right now she just like I said, she gets like laps run around her by every other tank. Like Reinhardt can even you get up in the face of a Reinhardt as a Junker Queen, you're already dead. Like at that point you can't do anything against his charge. Even if you're self-healing at this point, if he's getting any kind of support, he's just going to out sustain you and out damage you. It's your best hope is to commanding shout and run away, which you can't do as a tank.
I mean, you can. It's just not very effective.
I mean, you can do it if you're the tanks in my game because for some reason our win condition is to back all the way up to the capture point of a push map so that we're just beating them through respawns every time. That's not a viable winning strategy. It's just a viable strategy of making the game last 10 minutes when it should have been 5 minutes.
Mm-hmm.
Yep, Turtlein is always strong on that front. And, we also got some balance updates for our damage heroes. We talked a little bit about Bastion earlier. So in regards to what changes we saw, it was with the configuration artillery, which is his ultimate. The delay before projectile drops was reduced from 1 second to 0.6 seconds. The explosion damage was reduced from 300 to 250. You no longer deal explosion damage to yourself, so that's fantastic. Can't say I've ever blown myself up with that. At least one
You
time.
haven't been trying.
Yeah, exactly. And minimum delay between placing shots was reduced by 20%. Outside of that, we also saw reconfigure cooldown reduced from 12 to 10 seconds. Now, the artillery has definitely had some issues in Overwatch 2. One, with it being bugged in the past and you just being able to, have infinite artillery shots, not intended, which is why Bastion at one point was disabled in Overwatch 2, and now we can have more shots in Secession, which are definitely more deadly than what you're led on to believe, regardless of the explosion damage not being quite what it was before. And you might think well, yeah, 50 lower is a massive deal, but when you're just able to overlap things, doesn't really help you all that much if you're trying to deal against it.
It actually, one of the games that I just played, that No Limits game where everybody was playing Ramatra and then I ruined the game by going Bastion. It was on New Queen Street and they were all in between the middle section of the map and that one, I think it's a bus. You know how they have the two buses and then they have the section in the middle where you can sit on that catwalk. They were in that section on the ground level between the buses, and I just hit 3 artillery shots and killed all 5 of them because they came down so fast and they just weren't expecting it. It was I killed 4 of them and then I killed the Moira afterwards. Because they just weren't expecting it. It's so fast and it still does a ridiculous amount of damage. So people just aren't used to it yet. There was always, it was kind of like Doomfist's old Meteor Strike. Okay, Doomfist is coming down. Let me just walk over this way a few feet and I'll be good. And then they changed it so that you have to put a little more agency behind it, or you have to use the movement ability to get out of it. And if you don't have one of those, which Ramatra does not have, you gotta burn through some cooldowns. A block ain't stopping 3 artillery missiles to the head, buddy. So
yeah. The artillery's been one thing. The stuff that's been getting me is that the reconfiguration is so much quicker. 12 seconds to 10 seconds for cooldown is huge. It feels like people are just switching over so frequently. Every fight you're getting it twice almost.
Oh yeah, it's nuts. There was definitely certain fights where I would immediately start the fight as reconfiguration, and then we would finish a fight with my reconfiguration. Basically, we would soften them up. And this is specifically to a couple of the quick play games. I don't count that No Limits game as a pure Bastion experience. I knew that was just fucking around. But I have played quite a few quick play games as him because he's good against Doomfist and against Ramatra. Because apparently the one thing you can't block is 7 million bullets. It doesn't matter how good your block is. So
apparently, yeah, there's a specific way to block a Bastion that's very, because if you look up, you have to be exactly level with the gun almost, because if you look up it gets underneath and you die.
Yep. So he's been fun to play in quick play, but yeah, the reconfiguration, if you start a fight with it, you can end a fight with it, so you soften them all up. Usually what I was doing, actually my first game on Shambali, the new map, I played Bastion, and I would start the fight and I would just burn down the supports, and even if I didn't get a kill, it would force them so far back that by time they came back I would have reconfiguration again, and we would finish it. So I think Bastion's in a good spot right now if the meta is going this way. So I think I'm borderline to call him meta because that always bites me in the ass because they end up changing him like 3 days later because he's too strong. But I feel like he's in a good spot now where he's not a throw pick, at least.
Mm-hmm. Which is great because, like, as I've been trying to pick up more DPS heroes, like Bastion before this was the one that I was trying to play a lot more to, try to burn down the tank diff in regards to team differentials in this case, because the tank was dictating so much, and just having the extra ability to apply that pressure with reconfiguration is always a huge plus. And now that it's up more frequently, then this is even more noticeable for you as a Bastion player. And I would say, like, the big thing just across the board with the balance changes here is the Sojourn changes that we are seeing with Season 2. Obviously, that was the big talking point, like, oh my god, why aren't they nerfing Sojourn? And, they said, like, hey, it's going to happen in Season 2. Here we are. So all of these are stemming from her railgun. So her energy delay before draining was reduced from 8 to 5 seconds. Secondary fire damage fall off starting range was reduced from 70 to 40 meters. The critical damage multiplier was reduced from 2 to 1.5. Secondary fire damage now scales linearly with energy from 30 to 130 damage, which is 1 energy converted into 1 damage added. Primary fire damage per projectile was increased from 9 to 10. Then her overclock energy charge rate was increased by 20%. Okay, so for the Sojourn players out there, what does that mean for you? Well, if you're curious, well, do you still have like that pop off, like one shot potential with your railgun? You do it with like a mercy pocket with the damage boost, so that's still in play. But at the end of the day, you're looking at this and you're like, man, like that is a lot of changes to Sojourn. I've still been seeing quite a bit of Sojourn playing quick play. I don't know if you guys are also seeing that. I don't think she's as meta defining, but even with these changes, I don't think she's necessarily completely taken out of the picture. But this is definitely steps in the right direction compared to what we were seeing in the past. And a lot of their comments in the past was like, oh, well, like Sojourn's only oppressive in like the higher ranked games. I didn't agree with that. That's not to say that the lower ranked players weren't using her full toolkit, because there were a lot of players who just could not hit her snare, or sometimes her ultimate to save their life when they're just spamming right click. Very noticeable at the lower ranks with the railgun accuracy on that front. But at least now it feels a lot more even keel, which is basically what we really needed at like with where I'm at right now.
Yeah, it's like it's a little bit more even. I've heard already people be like, nope, she's still strong with the mercy pocket. It's like, well, Bastion's also strong with the mercy pocket.
Echo's strong, Pharah's strong, Soldier's song. Like, Mercy Pocket or Zen Orb just throws off the conversation. I will say, I don't feel like this was enough. Just because of the fact that as somebody who played a lot of Sojourn last season, she's still really deadly. Like the fact that you can just pump out shots during the ultimate now because it charges faster, and your primary fire does enough damage. Like if you hit a headshot with your alternate fire now in the 40 meters, which let's face it, 40 meters is still what most people were fighting at regardless. It's only the niche cases of where you're trying to out snipe a Widow at this point, where the 70 meters versus 40 meters comes into play. You can still just headshot them and then primary fire them once and they're dead. Like that's all it takes. So while it's not as aggravating to hear like this ends now and then 4 members of your team are instantly dead, it doesn't change that much, and it still makes her really good in the neutral at this point. Like they basically are like, okay, we're gonna make her all less dangerous while still making it almost just as dangerous, but making her better in the neutral fight, because they didn't change how fast she gets her ultimate. In fact, if you look at the patch notes, they buffed how fast she gets her ultimate because she's still doing a whole bunch of damage with her primary fire. So I've seen GM players and I've seen pro players already being like, okay, no Sojourn, like they're soft banning her in their games because people are just so tired of playing her, and she is like that good still. So I feel like, while this is like a step in the right direction, I feel like the buffs were unwarranted to her, like the rest of her kit. Like, I know they put in their comments like they want to balance her for lower level players while bringing down her ability to one shot at the higher level of play. Dude, just take her out of the meta for a little bit. Like, make her okay or decent at worst, and then let some of these other heroes have a chance at this point. Like, most players are tired of playing against Sojourn, so it would have been fine to be a little more aggressive with these changes. I get the tempered response, I just don't agree with it.
Yeah, and to kind of like add on to that really quick, in regards to balance changes that we have seen, in regard to how many heroes that have been touched in Overwatch 2 so far, there are still 22 heroes that have not seen any changes.
Sad.
Mean, we'll see.
My boy Junkrat, all he's gotten is nerfs. Come on, Blizzard.
No, Junkrat got one huge buff like 3 months out from release, and then has just been quietly nerfed and nerfed and nerfed and nerfed ever since.
I think Junkrat's in a good spot right now. Like, I actually don't think he needs any buffs. I do think there are many other heroes, primarily supports, that need some changes. I feel like there are some tanks that need some changes. But I feel like, outside of some of the niche DPS, like Symmetra, who we're about to talk about, Torbjorn, Hanzo getting his bug fixed for recoil. I feel like most of the cast is in a decent spot. I feel like small bug fixes would make certain characters better. So I don't necessarily think that number is appalling that these characters haven't been touched, but a little tweak here or there would be appreciated for some of them.
And hopefully not something as minuscule as Mercy Pistol stuff, but we'll get there momentarily. On the Symmetra front, we have some changes to her photon projector. So the beam charge rate and decay rate was increased by 20%. The primary fire ammo consumption rate was increased from 7 to 10 per second. And you're also gaining ammo from damaging barriers again. So I've not had an opportunity to play Sim yet, which is surprising. I love playing Flank Symmetra. In the game. One of the funnest things to do. The primary fire gaining ammo again is gonna feel pretty good. Not too surprised that they're not touching like the car wash aspect of her character with the turrets. But it's interesting that like with the Symmetra changes, in the past it was always like, oh, let's give her a new ultimate and have like the shield generator. And then like we've seen like, okay, we're gonna lower the amount of turrets she has because that's been pretty impressive when you're able to just throw out like 6 at a time and you're just getting slowed from 8 different directions, even though the math doesn't work out in that case. But I got to see like primarily how the decay feels in this when you're like not dealing with too many barriers on the opposition, because she's kind of like in that weird spot right now where it's like, okay, well, double barrier isn't really a thing anymore, so like how much charge are you actually going to get? But there's still like enough within the game where necessarily picking her doesn't feel like a throw pick either.
It kind of does, though. I've played 4 games as Symmetra, and all 4 of the games were rough. Like I tried the patented Totem flank Symmetra strategy, and that one still worked to certain degrees of success depending on the team. I played the more like bunker down, Symmetra depending on the point. Because I mostly just play her on control. Like she's still very good on very specific control maps. But it's noticeable. Like the ammo consumption is very noticeable because even as somebody who doesn't play Symmetra a lot, I felt like I was running out of ammo a lot faster than I used to. But the ramp up was also very noticeable, like that 20% in increased ramp up. You could beam down a Doomfist or something very quickly. You just had to be real careful about the timing and the block and stuff like that. So I feel like it was kind of like 2 steps forward, 1 step back kind of situation. Like she's getting there, but I don't think she's in a point where she's not a. I don't know if I'd consider her a throw pick at this point, but there's many other characters that can do what she does just as good, if not better, for less work investment, because especially with a lot of Doomfists running around, Symmetra, unless you're like playing the teleporters perfectly, gets bullied by Doomfist very easily.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I mean, I've seen people pull her out for like specific maps. I think it's just kind of what it is. I don't know. I don't think we need to be in a world where she is viable on the same level as like a Tracer who we're talking about, or like a Sojourn. She doesn't need to be in every map good kind of character.
Yeah, but she's also just kind of been stuck in that position where she's been better defensively than she is as an attacker. That hasn't really changed. Whereas, with like some of the other builders, we've seen more success on the opposite side of the field in regards to their utility and just their overall toolkit. With Tracer, they did address the pulse pistol fall off damage bug that they had been dealing with. So to compensate with the bug getting fixed, they increased her pulse pistol damage from 5 to 6.
Apparently, I don't know if it's still in game, but I saw something earlier that there's also a bug right now that if you stick somebody with a pulse bomb, you can't self damage off of it. But if you like don't stick them and it just lands next to them, you can still take self damage from it.
Oh, that's interesting.
Now this is on Overwatch TikTok, which we know how reliable that is, but
yeah, I don't know. And like I've seen a few Tracers in my game, and she hasn't felt nearly as bad to play against as she has with the bug. So I feel like the fact that she has to get a little more in your face, even though she's still doing, the more damage, is fine, because that's the trade-off for Tracer. Is you're supposed to be in and out doing quick hits, trying to get that one clip, and if you don't, any longer you stay is a huge detriment to your life. Like it's going to be hard to get out of there. You're going to have to rewind. You have to burn a cooldown. Manage your blinks, and that was kind of the problem I had with the fall off bug, is it eliminated that like risk reward aspect of her kit, whereas now that's back, I'm fine with the damage being up because there is counterplay to it. Like if she has to get closer to you, there are ways you can mitigate that. So this is like a nothing note to me. Like, okay, they fixed a bug and put things back where she was, so she's okay again.
Yep, and of course, we got to talk about the support changes or lack thereof. We were kind of going on a tangent earlier about some of this. So let's address Kiriko first, because that was a more meta-defining support hero in the game. She saw quite a bit of changes in this patch. We also saw her arm hit volume reduced by 15%. You also have a quality of life change in regards to auto wall climb. Her Kitsune Rush, her ultimate cost was increased by 10%. They also lowered the movement speed bonus by 20%, so it's now at 30%. And then the cooldown rate was reduced from 3 to 2 times faster. Protection Suzu cast time was reduced from 0.15 to 0.1 seconds. Her kunai ammo was increased from 12 to 15. And her Swift Step ability input can be held to activate. So obviously, Kitsune Rush as a whole, like we saw how potent that ultimate was in the game. I don't think there's any doubt in my mind that it was by far the most potent ultimate that we've seen in Overwatch at this point in time. Like it was just absolutely ridiculous, just what you can do just seeing like as a Zarya, like how many bubbles you could throw out in that time, just the amount of like grenades you could just chuck out and lob everywhere in every which direction and get hit from 12 angles with a Junkrat. There was just so many things that you can do based off of Kitsune where it was like the win ability, and you could just have an answer for just about everything you could possibly think of that you would have to deal with in that situation. So to see that tuned back feels pretty good. I'm worried with the kunai change in particular. We've always had that discussion of players looking at her and then wanted to play her like a DPS hero and just not being able to like hit the shots. So to see them like increase the ammo, I'm like, oh god, they're gonna try to like mindfuck people into trying to DPS more instead of heal bot in. So people are gonna still keep missing their shots. That's not gonna change. In regards to this right now, so I'll have to keep an eye on the Kiriko players to see if they are DPSing more. Hopefully, that's not going to be the case because so many of them are still struggling with the alternate fire. But I know my playstyle isn't going to change based off of this.
Nope. Yeah, she's still a very good like single target healer, and that's how you should play her. It's just 3 more kunai to miss. That's all it is. So less reloading in between it. But some good quality of life changes, like the auto wall climb was good, that you don't have to hold jump anymore. Once you initiate wall climb, she will wall climb the whole way. The swift step being able to hold to activate was really good, because that was like the one weird thing in her kit that I felt was missing, because you could like hold it down for any other character and it would, like Mercy's Guardian Angel and stuff like that. But overall, like none of these are surprising. I was a little upset about the projection Suzu, because I had finally just gotten the timing down, and now they changed it. So I think it's good overall. It just kind of screws people who've been playing a lot of Kiriko, because you're like, okay, I need to time this a little bit beforehand. And I actually had this happen today. Like I timed it the way I used to for when a McCree High Noon would go off, and I missed the timing because I did it too early. So it's just something that you'll have to get used to. But overall, I think these are all good changes. I don't think they like neutered her or anything like that. I still think she's like completely viable. I don't know if she's meta defining anymore, but she is still good in pretty much every comp you would have played her in beforehand.
Still strong. I mean, I'm with you, Totem, that I think they're just the less DPS Kiriko's you can get, the better. Because I feel like Kiriko's taking up this weird spot now where like people are like, well, oh, instead of just playing Moira, I play Moira and Kiriko. Those are the two I play, and it's like it's the same like spam damage down the middle. Mm-hmm. The making it more of a timing thing I think is great, especially with like. I have had so many games where like you get somebody in the graph, like in the graph, or if you shout at them and then like you're about to kill them and then like they hit that Suzu in. I think just making it that much quicker of like a release, I think makes it a little bit better. I don't know. There's still some tweaking to be done, but she's still in a pretty good spot. Already, like Spyder said.
Absolutely. Outside of Kiriko, we also had some small changes to Ana and Mercy. So with Ana, they were looking at her sleep dart. So the cooldown was reduced from 15 to 14 seconds. And then with Mercy, the Mercy changes are just like, why? Like, these are the ones that I'm just like, who the?
I feel like Neptuno has someone at gunpoint at this point.
Yeah. So Mercy, weapon swap time was reduced from 0.5 to 0.35 seconds, and then her ammo was increased from 20 to 25. All right, listen, Blizzard. I'm already tempted to pop Belk, bring out the pistol, deal with the Widowmaker that my team is not dealing with because, they don't have verticality or whatever. Maybe they're just ignoring her completely, regardless of if we have a Genji on the team, which at this point in time, there never is a Genji on the team because Genji is ass. And even with them, getting rid of the role passive for something new, they didn't revert any of the Genji stuff. Besides the point. But like when I see a change like this, I'm just like, but guys, that's not Like, doing this isn't going to be like, oh my God, I need to lock Mercy again. No, like, this isn't really going to do anything. It's like, sure, I might have a little bit more better defensive capabilities, but I'm not really like pulling out the Glock all the time as a Mercy player, unless I'm just going for like a Reddit clip. You know, it's just like, this isn't really going to change a whole lot about the play style. Like, her movement speed, like her movement just in the game right now is fantastic. Maybe a little too good. Which I'm sure you guys have all seen or have dealt with. But you know, something like this is just like, okay, like, is this a joke at this point? Because like nobody was asking for this. Like 5 extra ammo isn't really going to do much of anything at this point in time. But like when support players are just kind of like left in the dust or like just not seeing the changes to their role in particular, and then when something is added to the game or we do see a balance update and it's something like this, it just makes you go like, well, what the fuck is going on? Because like compared to every other change that we're seeing with the season 2 patch, you know, you have much more substantial changes to heroes on every other role except support. You know, these are so minuscule that like they're not really going to change much of the ebb and flow of the game. You know, you're not having that much more impact in the game itself either. So it's just like, well, what the hell are we actually doing here? Because like the incentive to actually play support right now still is lacking pretty substantially compared to, you know, what we're seeing elsewhere.
Yeah, I kind of talked about it earlier, so I'll leave this one to Ramses mostly. But yeah, these are like huge nothing burger changes. Like, come on, Blizzard. Like I said, I already ranted on this, so I'm not going to rant it again. It was just disappointing. That being said, you know, Mercy pulling out the Glock is still always fun to see. So, you know, at least we're going to get a little bit more of that. It's just not enough. It's not what we needed at this point.
People were using that as like an example of like, look at how out of touch these guys are. These guys clearly don't play the game, because nobody was asking for this. Like, Totem, you play a fair amount of Mercy, I would say, at least probably the most out of the 3 of us.
It's my second most played hero.
I was gonna say, and was your biggest request ever? Oh dear, Santa Jeff Kaplan, could I get 5 more bullets, please? Like, no. Nobody except for the most diehard Blizzard chat room Mercy stands are begging for more ammo. It's just weird. I feel not bad, but like it's a little uncomfortable to be like, man, no, people are too harsh on the Blizzard balance team. People have bad expectations. People are dumb, and then stuff like this comes out, and you're like, maybe there's a point there.
That's basically what I said earlier.
Well, you know, there was a comment in that Twitter space that they did where they were saying like, oh yeah, well, Mercy doesn't really overtake. I'm trying to remember what other support they were talking about. It might have been Ana, or I think it was Ana, until like the top 500, and I'm just like, what the fuck are they talking about? Because like at the higher level, I'm not seeing like a ton of Mercy play in the game in the streams. Like you're primarily seeing Ana Kiriko or Kiriko Lucio in basically every single game. So like I didn't understand that viewpoint. But from like just a play perspective, if you're talking about popularity of the support heroes in the game, Mercy has always kind of been towards the top. And a lot of that is just based off of the fact that she is more of a like heal bot type setup in regards to just character design in the game. And you know, she's been the staple of the game really since the early stages of Overwatch. So it kind of feels like they're at this point, or they have been at this point, where they're like, well, we don't want to do anything too substantial because she is kind of like the poster girl for the support, you know, characters in the game. But then it's just like, you're just stuck in this spot where it's just like, well, we can't really do anything because, you know, if we do, the Mercy players are going to come out in drones, and we just can't have that. You know, they're just trying not to give anyone ammunition, except in this case, they're actually giving Mercy ammunition by just added 5 more bullets. That's not what we want.
I will say, do you remember the last time they reworked Mercy and the shit we had to deal with? And she was busted. Like, imagine they rework Mercy and she's just slightly better. You know, it would be like a bloodbath. I don't get it. Like, I understand she's like the poster child for supports at this point, but they need to do something to supports in general. And like I said, we did this rant earlier, so I'm not going to do it again. But yeah, it was, you know, looking at these changes, I have for a while been like, I kind of need to learn how to play Mercy if I'm going to play support, just for those games that I get like the Pharah one tricks and stuff like that, the Echo one tricks, you know, to have the Mercy. But seeing these changes, I'm basically like, oh well, there's no rush because they're never going to change her at this point. Like, I can learn other heroes before I learn Mercy, so I do think she is deceptively good right now.
Yeah.
I feel like touching her too much doesn't need to be. Boy, that's a bad sentence. I feel like fixing her kit too much is not needed, at least compared to the other supports. But they could have left her how she was and nobody would have said anything. Because like I said, I feel like she's one of the few supports that is in a spot where she could be viable in certain comps. Sure, you can make small tweaks to her kit and she would be better. But you run that risk of Mercy being overpowered again, because the res is already one of the most powerful abilities in the game, and it got much more powerful in 5v5. So I feel like Mercy as a whole doesn't need as many changes as like Brig, Moira, Zenyatta, Lucio, even to a certain extent. They just need to do a pass on all the supports and kind of rebalance them a little bit. But this is like, these small incremental changes are not the way to do it. Like, honestly, they should have either put some big changes in and been like, this is our first step in multiple things, or not touched anything and been like, we have a lot of stuff coming in the mid-season patch for supports. We know it sucks right now. We'll deal with it then. I'm sorry.
I mean, didn't they also say they've already said that they're looking at reworking Brig, right?
They've said that they have a lot of support changes in mind, but they were very vague on it, and they were very PR speakish about it. So they kind of like downplayed it a little bit, and then this patch came out. So that, I think that's what got most people upset, is they were basically like, you said you were going to do all this stuff, you said you're aware of it, but this is what you're going to give us as a starting point. Like, it is just kind of disappointing. Whereas I feel like if they didn't do anything to Mercy, it would have been better, because then people at least wouldn't have a reason to make fun of them over it.
Yeah, and I did touch up on it a little bit earlier, Ramses, in regards to Brig. You know, they were primarily looking at changing up Rally. It's just taken a little bit longer than what they were initially anticipating, but like it's still, we know what they're looking at specifically. We just don't know how they're changing it or when it's actually getting patched through. Like, it's still like on the roadmap.
I see.
But yeah, just across the board though, it's just like, you know, you scroll down to when they got to the support changes there in the Twitter space, I legit laughed during the little stint that they had going over the changes, because it's just like, it felt so out of touch, really. But it's just like, man, I'd rather not. I'd rather them have done nothing than add something like this in particular. But you know, to each their own. You know, you're just giving the community more things to fuel the fire at this point in time, which is not what you really want to do when so many people already are having issues wanting to play support in the game right now. So to be that continued neglect, so to speak, isn't necessarily doing Blizzard any favors.
They're never good at that, are they?
Nope. Outside of that, we also have a new map pool. Not too much on that front. You know, we do have the new escort map, which ties into Ramatra, which is a Shambali monastery. We also have new versions of Nepal and Oasis on evening and morning, respectively. We also have the Blizzard World, which is drenched in rain. Spyder, I know you mentioned that you were playing on Blizzard World earlier. So how's the new weather effects?
I actually really like it. I really like the new Blizzard World weather effects. It's not to the point where it's like distracting. Like, I think most people, when they said, you know, it's going to be rainy, thought of like how we got what was it, Havana during the event where it was like torrential downpour and it was hard to see things. It's not, it's not game affecting, but it does affect the atmosphere, and it looks really nice. Like I like all the lighting changes that they put out. I will say the other one that I think they talked about was like Nepal and Oasis, like you said. I don't notice them because most of those maps are inside anyway. So
Right.
it's very weird. Like Oasis, it's noticeable on like 1.5 of the maps. Like if you're, depending on which one you get. Nepal, like I didn't notice it at all. Like I didn't notice any change. I just played Nepal like I normally did. So overall, Route 66 being back at night, I think was a good change because I hated Route 66 during the day because of the glare. There were certain points in that map, like Afara could just like be in the sky and you couldn't see her. But the fact that they can change maps just by lighting, I think is really cool. So overall, I don't have any complaints with like the map pool. I think they're all pretty cool. I've played 3 games on Shambhala Monastery, and all 3 games have been like absolute rolls. So I don't have a good like basis of the monastery because all 3 games were attack. All 3 games we just rolled through the enemy team. So
Interesting. I've only played defense.
it's a cool layout map. I'm a little upset that they did the same thing they did with Colosseo, where there is like a U-turn at some point. And that leads to some very interesting defense that I think will cause some problems once people kind of figure the map out. But overall, I like the aesthetic of the map. I like, what I've seen so far. Like I said, I'm not 100% on the layout. Maybe I'll do like a map video on it. I don't know if I'll have time for that, but it's something to consider. If people decide if they want it, leave a comment. There we go. We'll drive some engagement. If you want a map video in Shambhala, I'll do a map video. But if not, we'll leave it to somebody else.
Absolutely. So Ramses, I know you missed out on our Ramatra discussion. Anything you want to get off your chest first impression wise with the new hero?
He's fun. I'm not necessarily sure. There's a lot of cooldowns to manage. Lots of cooldowns to manage. And he's one of those characters that, like, at this moment, he's okay. He's fun and he's strong. When they do like the Junker Queen thing where they buff him like hella hard out of nowhere, he's gonna be like crazy strong because that ult is really, really good. The fact that he has very little fallout from his standard primary fire kind of scares me a little bit. Because to me it felt like, if you play Zarya, this is easy. Like you're just like moving the cursor and just tracking with it. He's fun. I am excited to see what else they do with him. I am gonna have to get used to the rotations of it. It's almost like a WoW character where you're just like, all right, and then we're gonna go to this form, and then we're gonna go like. Granted, that's how cooldowns in a game work, but like it feels like extra like that of just like and now like this is a full like the rotation is like right on its face instead of just kind of in the back of your brain.
It's like old Doomfist almost, where you had like a flow chart of what you had to do, and then once you're done with it, you got to wait a few moments, and then you do it again. I would agree with that.
I had a question for you guys actually, because maybe this is just my brain not remembering correctly. For the Watchpoint edition, like the $40 version of Overwatch 2 that came out on release, did that always only include one battle pass? Because I swear it included 3 at one point.
No, it included 1 battle pass, but it included 2,000 coins, so you could buy the other 2 battle passes, so you could get 3 battle passes if you didn't spend the coins. I totally spent the coins, so I had to buy this battle pass, but it theoretically could have included 3 battle passes.
Okay, that's where that makes sense then. All right.
Yeah, so the exchange was there to like even out to play that way. That's not how I use it. I had the first battle pass and then I bought the Kiriko Witch bundle. In which case I use all my coins plus I bought $5 worth of coins to get said bundle, and then I had to buy, the current season.
I see. I'm interested to see kind of like, because the thing I think that'll be interesting to get a hang of is like the range on the Nemesis mode punches is like very specific. Like, because you can like, of course you have immediate melee range, and then like I couldn't give you the number as far as like how like far away they still hit. It's like just barely farther than a Reinhardt swing almost.
It's a little under 10 meters. So
Yeah.
it's a little further than a Reinhardt swing. You're right. If a Reinhardt is actually like side swinging like he's supposed to, where you get like that apex right at the corner,
He's doing like the Mordhau like full swing and everything.
Yeah. If you're playing Reinhardt the way everybody tells you you're supposed to be playing him, it's a little further than that. But I think from what I've seen in the practice range, it's about a little under 10 meters. So it's not close, but it's not far either. So I will say that the ultimate goes a little bit further than the punch does. So if you have someone in your ultimate, you may not necessarily be able to punch them.
From what I've been told, like the rotation for that is like you have to go in like if you like hit Nemesis mode and then do most of Nemesis mode and then go into your ultimate, because by the when you pop out of Nemesis ultimate, you can go straight into Nemesis mode again.
Yeah.
That like I guess at max you can hit like 24 seconds.
Yeah, it's I mean you could say the ultimate theoretically forever, which like I was telling Totem, I almost did in one map. Like there was one time I played like 45 seconds just because the ultimate stays up as long as someone's near you, and if that someone is still alive, you're gonna stay in Nemesis mode until the ultimate runs out. So the ultimate is theoretically infinite, or until someone's not in the range. But that is the way it was kind of described to me. Is you do Nemesis mode, you go in, you punchy, and then you block, and then you hit your ultimate. And then you hopefully you get healed, and then you punchy some more, and then you block, and then you hopefully they're dead by then, kind of deal. And then if you need to, you can go into Nemesis mode, a theoretical third time, and that is like the optimal way. I can tell you from like a gameplay standpoint, it very rarely plays out like that in most maps. I will say the one like super annoying thing that I've come across, and I've done it, I've seen multiple streamers do it, is if for some reason you hit your ultimate and then you hit the Nemesis mode button, it cancels all of it like immediately. So you can like shift out of Nemesis mode and it cancels your ultimate. And I no lie, I watched Seagull do it like 3 times in a game because he's basically like, god damn it, I hit that button again. So I feel like while your ultimate's going, they should probably just disable the shift out of Nemesis mode, because I can't think of, like, I thought about it for a while and I can't think of any situation where you'd be like, well, I don't want my ultimate anymore, kind of thing. Like if you don't need it anymore, it'll just run out naturally. So like just disable that button, kind of thing.
Right on, but yeah, that's basically it in regards to the new balance changes with the season 2 patch. So a little bit more heavy-handed on some of the meta heroes, not so much across the board in regards to support. But Ramatra's here for better or worse. He's just all right, but definitely has the capabilities of being a little bit overtuned should they decide to buff him leading into the start of the competitive season for season 2. But all in all, the skins for season 2 all look fantastic. I'm waiting to try out obviously the new limited time event that they have attached with that as well. But for now, I know we've been going for quite some time, so probably best that we wrap things up because it is getting pretty late. So if you guys are looking to reach us, you can find us over on Twitter at HND Overwatch. You can find all of our video content, including some of our YouTube shorts at Overwatch League Network. We're also now on TikTok, where you can also find some of our clips at HND Overwatch. And as always, you can come discuss Overwatch 2 with us over on our Discord at discord.me/OWLN show. Outside of that, you can also find us over on social media. So Ramses, where can our listeners find you there?
You could find me on Twitter at Ramses_GG. And then I don't know if people promote hives now at this point. I don't use mine ever, but eventually you could just find me on Hive at Ramses NMBR and then 1, like the number.
Sounds good. Spyder, what about you?
You can find me at _ Spyder Gaming. You can also send me like a carrier pigeon. Whatever they're doing this. I don't have a Hive. I don't have a Mastodon. Smoke signals work. Whatever you got at this point. YouTube, Discord, all the stuff you've already mentioned. So, once Twitter gets burnt to the ground completely, Discord's probably going to be the best way to reach me.
Yeah, I mean, YouTube has already become like half May comments, anyways. With the shorts.
Dude, so many people dislike May.
Who would have guessed?
I don't know. And the May videos do much worse, but I still want to put out more May videos. Like it galvanized me to want to play more May, and I absolutely did not need a reason to play more May. But now that I have one, I'm sorry to say that the rest of the week's going to be all May clips. No, I'm just kidding. it's not.
I would not be surprised in the slightest if you actually went through with that. But anyways, you can also find me on Twitter at Tumbly Drunk. So just as a reminder, again, next week we'll have 2 episodes. We will have an interview drop in with Symmetra voice actor Anjali Bhamani, which I'll be doing on Thursday before our podcast. So we'll have 2 episodes out on the feed next week. Greatly look forward to that. But for now, that will do it for us here tonight on Heroes Never Die. This has been episode number 244. You guys enjoy your weeks, and we'll see you guys over in-game and in the Discord. You guys have a good night.
Bye.
Later.